Hicksville. All right, guys. I'm from Chicago originally, but I've lived in Hicksville now for, since the pandemic. And when I got here, I started a business focused on teaching people the very, very important skill of sewing and craft of making quilts overall. My goal kind of is to teach everybody in Long Island how to sew. Um, Trudging slowly through Nassau County, right? I've got a whole bunch of quilters already, but no one at the library in the custodial staff has yet to take my class. If anybody knows a custodian that wants to join up, let me know. So I've been teaching and offering quilting educational classes to libraries and other organizations all across Nassau County. So I'm very, very grateful to get to be part of the consortium tonight. Thank you to everybody for coming in. And I have a presentation that I'm going to put up in just a second. Um, Let me see. All right, hold on. I'm going to put this up for us, guys. I'll remove the spotlight here. I do have two cameras going tonight. So you'll see one circled in green right now. Um, and the other one has the sound off, but it's called, is it on this page? Nope. Maybe on that page. It's called camera two. And if you can see it, it's my overhead camera. Make sure. Oh, it turned itself off. That's no fun. Okay, put it back on. Okay, so I do have camera two on this side, and so I don't want you guys to pin me because I do want to be able to switch back and forth between cameras. Right now, though, let me put this one up, and I'm going to start a slideshow. Mhm. All right. Can everybody see the presentation? Yes, no, maybe?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. So happy birthday, USA. 250 years of quilting in America. Uh, Let me. All right. So we're going to start with what is a quilt, really? And I want you to think not just about a quilt, but your Afghan, your crocheted piece, your tablecloth, the curtains your family member made for you, um, any blanket, any piece of clothing, right? That's stitched from one person to take care of, to comfort someone that they love. And it's quite possible that we have been using this kind of soft domestic comfort of textiles to take care of our families, to take care of our people since prehistory, as it says there, as the blanket has been seen as powerful defense against evil spirits. Right? Imagine having a nightmare and then pulling the covers up over your head, right? Because then you'll be safe. Um, so to start off, guys, the picture here, this is how I got into quilting. I guess not really. This picture is from 2006. It's me and my grandmother, Frances Campner. She was born in Chicago of German immigrants, and she was an only child. She had 8 kids, so she'd never be lonely. And after she had all these kids, she took up quilting. Now, that's a little bit nuts, right? I don't know how many kids you guys have. I've got 2 and a bonus kid, and already I'm struggling to make room for them against all my quilting stuff. But grandma made 2 quilts and gave up. And she's like, no, I don't want to do this anymore. But her mom picked up the hobby somewhere mid 60s, maybe 70s, and found some quilting friends or friends that were interested. And she ended up making tons of scrappy patchwork quilts that filled my childhood, including the one that's photographed here. Um, we laid it out on the floor because we could not figure out the piecing sequence, how she got it together. But in 2006, I started writing publicly about quilting. I started a blog, and that's back when blogging was a big deal. And I wanted to document all of my great grandma's quilts. Right? And since then, I have learned so much more about the life and times of the people who made the quilts that I grew up with, the people who have the quilts around me. And though I was the only one of my generation to take up quilting, since I became so obsessed, my mom's sisters have all taken up quilting, and I have many cousins who dabble in it as well, and their kids too. So we're really trying to spread it along in the family. All right. Um, so what I want to go through first, we're going to do a map quiz, and then we'll jump through 100-year periods at a time. Right? We'll talk a little bit about the colonial period, the first 100 years, the second 100 years, and the last 50. Okay, and then if any of you have show and tell that you would like to spotlight your, I can spotlight your camera, and you can show us off any quilted projects you've made or that have been passed along in your family. All right. So, what makes a quilt a quilt? You guys can unmute yourself and tell me all about it. You can ask questions too. What makes a quilt a quilt?
I think primarily because whether you use one piece of material or patches of material, but it has to have layers where you add batting in the middle,
Mm-hmm.
give it that, that little shape of that it's not a flat piece of fabric. That's my idea.
Thank you, Les. Thank you for that. You're right. It needs layers. Right? Now, it's true, the layers can be composed of multiple pieces, patchwork, or of a solid piece with things applied to it, which is applique. Um, but typically, a quilt that is being made for warmth will have three layers: a patterned top or a pretty top, a cotton or some other layer of batting for warmth, and then a solid back sheet that would go against the underside. Um, if you don't put in the batting because you want a cooler or a warmer weather coverlet, um, it's just that you're going to quilt it exactly the same, and then it's a coverlet. So a quilt also has stitches taken through all the layers so that the three layers will then move and act as one blanket. And when I teach quilting, I like to remind people that the quilting itself needs to be spaced evenly across your whole quilt. Even if you just wanted to, go around your design, the quilt will not be as uh, as durable, really, as utilitarian if it is not evenly quilted so that it acts as just one thing. All right. Now, how can you tell the age of a quilt? Here, I gave you the answers right there, but tell me about it.
Old quilts would be made from cotton or a natural fiber. It wouldn't have the polyester or the spandex that we now have, in modern times.
Good point, Amy. Thank you. Um, Plastic and plastic fabric wasn't invented until what, 1950s, 40s? Somebody help me out there. So anything that has that would be made afterwards. You date the quilt by finding the most recent fabric. Okay, and why does that happen? How does that, uh, why would you do it that way? I'm not going to show around, pan the camera to show my entire sewing studio, guys, but I've been collecting fabric since I was a teenager. And more and more and more so every time I got a bigger house. So,
Jessica, wouldn't it have to do with the fact that maybe at some point, like you said, you've been collecting fabric, so it could be like old clothes or other old blankets that people, compiled through the years, and then the newest fabric will date it when it was created, perhaps.
Exactly. I'm sorry, I didn't see who was speaking just now.
Laz.
Oh, thanks, Les. Uh, so it's true. I have fabric left over from my grandmother, my great grandmother. The lady in orange is my mom, and the stripe, that's my grandma. Um, but I have fabric that I have inherited. I've had fabric that I've purchased secondhand, fabric that I purchased firsthand. I go on road trips just to stop at quilt shops. It's totally worth it. It's great. But if I go to make a quilt now, I might be using, just like Laz said, fabrics that I've had for years or fabrics that had a different life and then became this quilt. Okay, so you have to find the newest fabric. I do have this quilt that's pictured that I wanted to show you guys later so you can see how a quilt wears away. You can see over here at the side, you can see through the quilt. There's actually a hole right here next to this bright pink one. So you're going to find the most recent fabric. You can often tell by feeling it. Um, Sometimes the worn ones will definitely feel worn. Oh, hold on. I'm going to stop share for just a moment so we can get into here. All right. How's everybody doing tonight? Seems like a whole bunch of people just came in while I was going through that introduction. All right. Can I see a show of hands or a emoji or whatever you throw up? Who all is a quilter? Woohoo! Thanks, guys. That's awesome. So for those of you who aren't quilting, go ahead and ask questions if I'm using vocabulary that you're unfamiliar with. All right. Um, all right. So what I want to do next, I'm going to put up a map of the United States. You will need a scratch paper and something to write with, or open a window on your screen there if you want to and jot stuff down. We're going to do a little USA geography quiz, right? Um, Gotta put this back on share. Okay, I think I can come in and annotate. All right, can everybody see the map? All right. So number your paper 1 to 10. And I want you guys to write down the name of the state as I call it out. Can you do it? Hold on. I'm getting there. Mm, mm, And all right. So I'm gonna text. This is number 1. What state is this? Don't call it out, just write it down. Let's make it tough. How about number 2? Let's see if I can get my text box to actually help in New England over here. Yeah. You see number 3? Go over here for number 4. Mm, 5. Mm, this one's really hard. I don't know if you'll get it. 6. 7. 8. Nice. Okay. All right. How'd you do? All right. Let's switch over to the camera. Okay. Um, okay. Oh, okay. Now you see my uh handmade quiz. How did you do? What's number one? Call it out, somebody. Nobody got number one.
Wyoming.
Yay, it's Wyoming. All right. So Wyoming is WY. Okay, what's number two?
Nebraska,
Good job. And E3?
New Hampshire was hard to tell.
No.
Vermont, then.
No.
Rhode Island.
Rhode
Yes.
Island, little tiny
Number
Rhode Island.
three is right on top of the Rhode Island. What about four?
Michigan,
No.
Minnesota.
Yay! Minnesota. This one's Michigan. All right. And this one's New Hampshire and that one's Vermont. Okay. We're on number five.
Missouri.
Great. Oh, that's gonna be O, right? That was 5, 6.
New York.
Whew, thank goodness. Okay. We got that one. Guys, I tutor high school kids and getting them to, they got New York, but Pennsylvania, New Jersey, they can't. They just don't know where it is.
States.
Right? So how about number 7?
North
North-
Carolina,
Virginia?
North Carolina,
No, it's Virginia.
Virginia.
Ah, okay, it's Virginia. VA. Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida. Going right down the eastern seaboard. Okay, we are up to number 8.
Alabama.
Woohoo! We're talking about Alabama tonight when we talk about the filters of. Hold on, what happened to my camera? Oh, we see this again? Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean for the camera to go out on me there. All right, we're going to talk about Quilts of G's Bend in Alabama in a little bit. What's number 9?
Oregon. Yeah.
Woohoo. We are making number 10.
New Mexico?
Oh,
Arizona.
It's New
New
Mexico.
Mexico.
Good job. New Mexico. All right, was this difficult?
What was
yes,
number one? I didn't hear you.
Oh,
Wyoming.
Wyoming.
Wyoming. Okay, thank you.
What was
All right.
number 4?
Minnesota.
Minnesota. I'm going to go right back and share this screen so we can see it. Oh.
Are we getting a grade because we're all failing?
Ha! No, you're not getting a grade. My screen sharing is paused. How do I unpause this? Oh. Let me try again. All right. Oh, all my letters are off. All right. I wanted to go over the map as we talk about, what did I do there? Sorry, I kept hitting something and it goes off the
Sorry to bother you again. Number 10, was that Nebraska?
Number 10
Mexico.
was
Oh,
New Mexico.
New Mexico, sorry. Thank you.
Oh, let's go back this way. All right, so I wanted us to go over the map because we're going to be talking about the various periods of U.S. history, and the U.S. culture changed as the country grew. right? And quilting was right along with it as it went along. So we're going to talk about various states, and if you don't know where they are, we'll refer back to the map. Okay, starting out, we got some textiles in the colonial period. Does anybody know about the quilt pictured? Not about that specific quilt, about the style of quilting?
Is that Trapunto?
It looks like it, but it isn't. It's a wool batting. And so it gets super fluffy, super, super fluffy. But the wool batting came from England, from Britain. So this quilt is actually an example of Welsh quilting. Um, and they're able to get great texture because of the wool batting. So the colonial period is going to be everything before 1776. And did we have quilts in America then? I'm gonna say
Yes.
yes, we had quilts in America, but what kind?
Oh,
American Indian.
European.
All right, all right. So in the colonial period, it's just England sending folks over and sending folks over. But you've got the ones who came with no money, and then you've got the people who came already uh with all their trunks full of beautiful things. So this is an example of a British whole cloth quilt. And again, it looks like trapunto. It may be, but the part of the fabric is heavily quilted so that the unquilted part becomes raised. And the British quilting tradition of the 1600s and even forward after that is a medallion style. So they put one big, beautiful something in the middle and then echo it with other patterns and even quilt designs that look like blocks on a non-patchwork quilt. So as it says, British quilting and textile traditions came with the colonists, but they weren't allowed to manufacture cloth, right? So England still wanted to make sure the colonists are importing their fine cloth. But there weren't a lot of trade routes along the East Coast. So even if you could import cloth, it couldn't get there very quickly, right? So any bit of fabric they had, they used. But uh, of course, early settlers did smuggle flax seeds and sheep so they could produce their own cloth at home. Um, this is an image of whole cloth quilt by Lucretia Smith. That's not what it is. Esther Wheat, Conway, Massachusetts, about 1790, the Smithsonian. And the whole cloth quilt here by Lucretia Smith is 1776. Look for a second at her dress, right? It's an open robe gown. So the pretty fabric doesn't go all the way around. And the petticoat is layers of fabric and then intense hand quilting. Sewing machine didn't exist yet. Like this is the kind of stuff that they would bring over and then they'd use up until it wore out, right? Or it'd be left in someone's estate and then sold off. So the earliest mention of quilts in the United States is 1685 in the household inventory of a captain in Salem, Massachusetts. All right, so these don't look like traditional American quilts yet. We're not quite there. All right. So, oh, hold on, I skipped over one. The cotton gin didn't come along until 1793. So working with cotton wasn't easy for your average homemaker, right? Um, so most of your cotton was made from wool and flax, and would be put together on a loom as pictured. But the early pioneers, no, not even pioneers, sorry, the early settlers barely had room or space in their dwellings or ability to have this kind of loom. So it was pretty rare still. But by 1776, wearing homespun cloth, things that you had, like cloth that you produced at home and did not import from England, was a sign of American pride for the Revolution. Right. All right, textiles in the first 100 years. So, along with not having enough trade routes in the early years, you also had no experienced textile artisans. Like they hadn't come over until, they made sure the American idea was going to work out. So by mid 1700s, you have European trained cloth dyers, all right, and tailors, and they set up shop in Philadelphia and other eastern cities. And then you could purchase cloth at home, or sorry, purchase cloth out, and you did not have to make all of your own. So let me see. Gonna go on and on. We are in the middle of. All right, so by 1770s, you have the beginning of small-scale manufacturing, textiles and cotton. Before then, any cotton that was imported came from Egypt and the Caribbean. In the second half of the 18th century, you've got more leisure time, so people could make more quilts. And having handwork, needlework skills was considered highly valuable for girls. Still, they had a heavy English influence, but their quilts were pieced and appliqued. All right. Okay, so in 17, no, that's not right. That's not, hold on. Hold on just a sec. When become the, okay. All right, so moving forward, here are your pioneer quilters. All right, this is why we talked about the map and uh, the great change that happened with quilters as they moved across the country. By 1800, the area of America had doubled, right? You've got westward expansion. And quilting groups from the established eastern cities and towns would get together and make friendship quilts for their friends who were moving away, right? And maybe all of us would make a block and then put it together and sign our names on it. Or we would put together blocks that reminded us of where we currently lived, like blocks there. And then the quilter would take that quilt with her and settle in her new town somewhere in the West and teach all of her new friends the quilt block names, patterns, the techniques that she was using with her other group. And this is how quilting spread all across. Remember, in the pioneer times, you still had community labor, right? Everybody comes together to put up somebody's barn. Everybody comes together to stitch somebody's quilt. And it just made sense, to share. Also, is a lot of fun to quilt with your friends if you haven't tried it. Okay. So I gave us this map of the US again. It doesn't even have all those states I asked you about, but we know where Oregon is, right? Who played Oregon Trail on the computer in the, oh gosh, early 90s, late 80s? I did. Me. All right. So you can see that quilts and the quilters themselves traveled across the Oregon Trail. Do you know how quilts were used along this path at this time?
For communication.
Oh, tell me more, Sandy.
I remember being at a lecture and they would hang the quilt over a railing of some type to know about the slave trade.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. The quilts of the Underground Railroad. definitely. That was going in a different direction, so I'll get to that map in a second. But for the European settlers that moved west, the pioneers, my favorite quote of the time, um, the mother said, I make quilts as fast as I can to keep my family warm and as beautiful as I can to keep my heart from breaking. Right? They didn't know where they were going into. This is the only comfort they have. And they started, I don't know, they didn't start anything. They just continued what they were doing. Um, but when I played Oregon Trail in elementary school, one of the most fun parts, of course, is when all the people in your wagon died.
Yeah.
And I mean, even more fun was the start of the game where you got to name all the people in your wagon, and either you named them your friends or your teachers or somebody else. And then, of course, they all died. But on the actual Oregon Trail, when a family member would lose someone, they'd often wrap them in a quilt for burial because they didn't really have anything else. Right. So this is how all of your quilt block patterns moved across the West. 1876. I do want to go back for a second. Let me get to the Great Migration picture. Okay. So I skipped ahead a little bit because I wanted to have a picture of the South and the Great Migration, what happened when formerly enslaved people received emancipation and got the heck out of the South. Some of them did. But what happened there? All along, you have, as long as there have been um, people of African descent living in the South and taking care of homes there, they were quilters. They would uh, put together patches of the fabrics that they would have woven for the people that were keeping them. Not getting anything new for themselves, but taking scraps left over and making some really beautiful things. So African American quilting is a wonderful topic of its own. I'm going to touch on a few things as they came through. But in terms of the Underground Railroad, right, if you're unfamiliar, there are several good books. I'm currently reading Night Flyer about Harriet Tubman. And Harriet Tubman, we know, is a um, abolitionist who risked her own life to help guide others up north to Canada or to safety. How many of you knew that she was a quilter? Anybody? Well, you're like, wow, okay, well, how is it that this really awesome woman shared my hobby? No, no, no. Everybody was a quilter back then. Everybody had those skills. But Harriet Tubman happened to be one of the people who, was really good at it. And in the story goes, the folklore goes that one of the houses that she approached for help, she traded her handmade quilt for the address or the name of the people who would help her at the next stop. And the more I thought about that, and the more I thought about how Underground Railroad folklore tells us that each block design had meaning. And if this quilt was hanging, then you should do that. And if this quilt is hanging, it means keep going in this direction. Now, because there are there's no documentation, um, historians have had a hard time uh, confirming the stories, but folklore is folklore. Right? And if she was a quilter, heck, I know how much meaning I put into each block, and I know how much I talk about my quilts to other people. Right. So I'm pretty sure it makes sense. Right. So the quilts would be used to show a sign of safety or an alert that things weren't safe. And hopefully, the quilters, only the quilters would be safe. No, hopefully, anyone who was seeking freedom would be able to use that code as a way to go. So you see here now you've got all of your African Americans scattering everywhere and taking their quilt patterns with them. So by 1899, there were over 1,000 known quilt patterns. Hold on, let me find that quote. By 1899, thousands of named quilt designs were known by quilters across the country, like known by name. And that phenomenon, I don't know how else, I don't know. That's pretty impressive. I like that part. So here's an example of late 1800s, early 1900s, uh, America, like American Pride, Americana, patriotic quilt. And patriotic quilts have been around, of course, since the beginning. Let's see if I can find, I had some 1776 quilts in here. Hold on. Oh, did we get the 1776? I guess not. Let me stop this for just a second. Any questions so far? Oh, here it is. Slide 26. I've got to get that up. Hold on. And I'll come back and show you guys. All right, patriotic quilts. Zoom window, share screen. Here we go. So patriotic quilts have been very popular throughout the course of America's history. Um, this one is from 1976. Vintage. Oh my goodness. Bicentennial. Star quilt. Yeah, it's 50 years old, but it's also $850. I screenshot the Etsy listing in case anyone wants to go quick buy it. Handmade patchwork quilt. All right. Other Americana style. This is more recent. This little star is called the Friendship Star. These are half square triangles. Right. So now I know the names of the components of the quilt design. Right. Like that's how far the information has deepened. Okay, sorry. Let's take us back to where we were. We made it to 1876. Woohoo! America is recovering from Civil War. In late 1800s, of course, early 1900s, women still couldn't vote, right? So women used quilts to show their political sympathies. Right? They could embroider things on the quilt. They could use the quilt as a fundraiser. Women's societies were made to make quilts for soldiers, and sanitary commission fairs were held in big cities, and they're like huge craft fairs, focusing on featuring quilts and trying to raise money for a war effort. So women used what they had, right? They used what they know. All right. This quilt is made by Harriet Powers. All right, she's a African American quilter who did applique pictorial quilts. So each block in this quilt is made by shaping the colored fabric into, the character or the animal and stitching around the edge to hold it down. Right. And then each of the blocks is stitched to one of these brown polka dot strips. Oh, in some places, to separate the blocks from each other and then sewn together in the grid. You should, or the story goes that you should be able to read what's happening across, and then this could be used to have a moral, teach family history, teach religious stories, or however it went. This quilt survived. I'm not quite sure how. It is at the Boston Museum of Fine Arts, and when was it exactly? Not sure. By the time we had forever stamps, the U.S. Postal Service made stamps of the Harriet Powers quilt, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Oh,
The U.S. Postal Service, oh my goodness, I'm very grateful because they often highlight quilters and quilt styles of all types, and nobody else seems to do that, right? Except librarians. Librarians do great. So, does anybody know what this type of quilt is called? We're still,
Is
sorry?
is it signature quilt?
Yay! Points to whoever said it. Good job. Also, these days we call it a Siggy quilt, for
Mhm.
signature blocks. But this is where everyone in the group would make a block of her own fabric and embroider her name and here the date. Somebody else would put them all together, or they'd give the stack of blocks to the woman who was leaving. And then as she was in her wagon on her journey, she would stitch them all together. All right, so I have a friendship quilt. Let me stop share for a second and see if I can put this one up. See if I can get the whole quilt here. My quilting journey started in high school or middle school, as I mentioned. And then I traveled a bunch and ended up in Atlanta for a few years. And my quilt group in Atlanta made me star blocks. Let's see. Can you see?
Oh, how nice.
And so I received a handful of the blocks, and I had to figure out how to put them together. Oh my goodness. It was 2004, and I used Electric Quilt, the quilting software, um, to arrange, some improv blocks and to make a pleasing arrangement. Now, they might not look like signature blocks, but if you look closely, everybody
Oh,
find them. And this way you can remember all your friends. And it's also really fun to remember whose fabric looked like what, like this is, oh, I remember she always did those, or she really had bright, she only had florals, right? So it's a great way to remember the group by. All right. I see people are asking me some questions in the chat. Um, the quilt that we showed of Harriet Powers were all applique. And me personally, no, I do not have a long arm. Not yet. I think my partner wants me to get one, but I really don't want it yet. Right. All right. Okay. So moving right along. We did our Great Migration. Everybody's moving everywhere. All right. There are certain groups that have their own style of quilting that we'll see throughout American history. The African American quilters, of course, is the largest group and one that has a very, very strong influence. But you also have Mennonite and Amish quilters, and then later Hawaiian quilting. There's also um, Seminole style quilting, but I don't know much about it. All right, people are still coming in. That's great. So this is an example of Mennonite quilt from 1920. You can see only solid fabrics are used here. Usually that's a signature of Amish quilts because they, for religious reasons,
we
do not use
lost
pattern
you.
fabrics. I'm sorry?
You're frozen.
Me? Am I still
Okay.
frozen?
No.
No, you're not frozen.
Okay.
On my computer, anyway.
Whew, okay, thank you. All right, moving that quilt out of the way. All right. Okay, so I don't have any Amish quilts in the slideshow. I'm going to pull out the book for that. Um, as I said, the Amish use only solid colors in their quilts, and the quilting patterns are actually really similar to Welsh quilting patterns. And so I'm still doing research, but it seems that both German immigrants and Welsh immigrants came to work the steel in Pennsylvania. So it's possible that their wives hung out and swapped quilt patterns. I'm still working on this theory, guys. I'll come back to it. All right. In other areas, what do we have when it comes to 1920s? Well, yay, finally we can vote. But we also have mass media, right? You've got publications that are now spreading throughout the country, and the same pattern would be available for multiple quilters to see and recreate. Okay, so no longer do I have to just tell people what I made when I lived in New York. Now we can all get this magazine. Isn't it fantastic? And you have a whole bunch of quilts that came from printed or published patterns. All right. Here are two examples of Hawaiian quilting. These are both my quilts. And what makes Hawaiian quilting uh, unique in terms of other American styles is that it's very focused on botanical elements, nature around Hawaii. And it's always done in only two colors or two fabrics, I guess, to be more specific, where the top fabric is folded as in eighths, as you would a snowflake, and then the pattern is cut from the fabric as it's folded. Then it's unfolded, so you get um, the repeating uh, design coming out from the center. Right, it's a very, very fun style of quilting to do if you haven't done it. But also fun to note is that Hawaiian quilting traditionally has echo quilting in the stitches that hold the layers together. And you go around the outside of your shapes and use your finger as a guide to where to sew the next ring. So the quilting echoes the shapes that you've appliqued. All right, let me stop the share for a sec. Flip over to this camera. Oh, I didn't put where is Pennsylvania um, in our quiz. But what I want to do now is go through some various American quilts. First, we'll start with the Amish ones. This book is Amish Abstractions. And I love the quilt on the cover. Oh. So Amish quilts are patchwork sometimes. This is called a bar quilt, just long columns of color, and then the quilt design does not fit inside the patchwork. It goes over it. These are feathers. This is crosshatch. Oh, over here, crosshatch. Where's the next one? More example. Oh, more examples of the bar quilts. This has to go away. Okay. Oh, and then here. How we take one block and repeat it. Does anyone know the name of this block?
Mm-mm.
All right, quilters. I know you're not in my quilting class, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Can you see? You find one block in there? It's Jacob's ladder. It's a 9 patch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You make this unit and then you repeat it and rotate it and you get that awesome pattern. Okay. Let's see, these are all triangles and more triangles and more triangles. Still no pattern fabrics. Oh, I like this one. All right, so you have beautiful geometric designs, meticulous quilting, and oh, I like this one too. And Amish quilts are significant in American quilt culture because they are one of the only groups that would make quilts for sale, right, to the outside people. They are very isolated from other cultural aspects of America, but with quilts, they decided to up and go crazy and make them for sale once they realized people would buy them. All right, so that was Amish. Let's talk for a second about Gee's Bend. Okay. Does anyone know the story of Gee's Bend? All right, good. I get to tell the whole story. Let me stop and answer the questions in the chat first. So Bobco asked if I send my quilts out to a long arm person, and the answer is yes. Yes, I do. I currently use Grandma Eddie, if you're familiar. He's in Floral Park. He does fantastic freehand long arm work, and he's reasonably priced with a fast turnover. Um, and then Beth asks when we'll be able to see the recording of the program. The library usually takes a bit of time to upload it, and then it will be available for about a month if you want to send the link out and watch it over again. Or, yeah, isn't he great? Grandma Eddie, he's great. All right, thank you. All right, so Gee's Bend is a town in Alabama. That's why Alabama was on our map quiz there. Right. And the quilters of Gee's Bend are the descendants of the people who were enslaved in North Carolina and were made to walk to their owner's new plantation in Alabama. And that, oh, the year escapes me, but it's right after the Trail of Tears where they made the native people of Alabama walk to the reservation in uh, Oklahoma. So a lot of walking, but geographically, Gee's Bend is just that. It's in the oxbow of a river, and so it's geographically isolated, right? And all of the area in the surrounding area was part of one plantation at the time. And after emancipation, the descendants still lived in that area. And most of them, or many of them, still carry the names of the owners of the time, even though they're not genetically related to one another. I thought that was fascinating. Okay. So the quilters of Gee's Bend were incredibly, incredibly poor. The people of Gee's Bend. And they made quilts out of old clothing, worn textiles, absolutely anything. And somehow they were able to come up with or create beautiful, asymmetrical, usually patchwork designs. Right? But the research I've done so far says the stories, how does it go? Include the family gathering around on a quilt that has been laid out on the floor. And they laid the quilt out on the floor because the livestock were living underneath the house and they would kick up dust into the kitchen. So they laid the quilt out on the floor and all the kids came together to hear the stories of the family of the quilt, whatever, to do their domestic tasks together. And the quilt was there with them, like signifying this is a place and time for us to do this activity, and that also this is safe and comfort. So they were quilters out of necessity, but I'm zooming through the story quite quickly. Many people are familiar of the art installation where their quilts were discovered by artists in early 2000s and then taken on display and put on gallery walls. And the quilters themselves were astonished to see, things that they made out of what others would consider trash or leftovers to be considered art. Um, there's a lot of information about the Gee's Bend quilters and their works. They had stamps commemorative made of their work. Also, there's wonderful books, there's children's books, there's coloring books, goes on and on. And this has become one area of African American culture that schools have started teaching in February and June and even at the end of the year. So um, I I like to teach everything all together, but because there's so much documented about the quilters of Gee's Bend, it seems that mainstream America likes to teach about the thing that's documented and not about the folklore. And so you'll see classroom projects about Gee's Bend instead of classroom projects about the Underground Railroad quilts. And I thought that shift as viewing American history is also significant. Back to the wonderful G's Bend quilters. So, do you remember the Sears catalog that came up until when? The 80s? When did that stop? If you ordered a quilt from the Sears catalog until sometime in the 80s, the quilters of G's Bend were the ones contracted to make all of those quilts. So you would have gotten a quilt from these women or made by these women. And that was even before they were discovered by the art world. So it's really amazing. And I have an entire 2-hour long presentation on it. But they also made the cushion covers and pillows and things, anything that you can get in this year's catalog. Pretty cool. In recent years, when exactly, one of the quilters of G's Bend collaborated with Target and put G's Bend inspired textiles on a whole bunch of, this is a notebook cover, but there were sweatshirts and bedding. And it's bad in one way because it's a picture of a quilt that has then been quilted and it's not cotton at all, but good because the artist was able to collaborate with a major distributor and hopefully get a good deal for herself. But I thought that was really interesting that they showed up there. Unfortunately, not everybody started quilting after Target showed them, it was worth it, but we'll keep trying. That might be everything for G's Bend. Okay, guys, I'm going to go through the last 25 years of America. No, 50 years. Keep thinking it's still 2000. Oh, wait, we forgot Hawaiian quilts. Sorry. One more book. One more book. So Hawaiian quilt patterns, they said, are always going to be bilaterally symmetric. Oh, this is not the one that's a color. Okay. So to get this design, you fold your fabric in quarters. Here's the fold. And you cut that out and then open it up. Likewise, to get this design, which is also symmetric on the diagonal, it ends up looking like that. You only use, like, this is the pattern piece because you're going to fold your fabric in eighths and then lay this on top and cut it out. Let's see. So when you fold your fabric and you lay the pattern piece on top, you're cutting one solid fabric that then opens. And as you do needle turn applique to applique down all of your edges, the pattern appears because it's getting smaller and you can see the space between, and that's how you get the full effect. It's a very wonderful and addictive method. And this woman, Kalani, has, I believe, 4 or 5 books of patterns. And then she's also on YouTube. So you can go and find her videos as well. Thank you, guys. Back to more America and more quilting. All right. Dun, dun, dun. The fan quilt was one of the popular patterns of the 1900s, probably from 1930s. This one is made by my great-grandmother. My cousin and I tried to document all the quilts, like I said, in 2006 when I started blogging. And we found on this quilt, oh my goodness, she used a ballpoint pen to write out her quilting pattern. Like, Grandma, what were you thinking? You can't write ballpoint. This is not a Frixon. This is not anything that works that way. But anything, really anything goes if you're making it yourself, really. The quilt on the left here, this is the McCord vine made by Susan McCord in Michigan. It's currently at the Henry Ford Museum. where they have a fantastic collection of her quilts. So if you're interested in learning more about quilts and seeing quilts on display, check out the tiny museums. They've got stuff. Okay, here we go. Textiles the past 50 years. 1776, people are talking about quilts again. And um, what else happened through the 1900s? Right? 1940s to 69, women went to work, right? And all of a sudden, synthetic fabrics are in and old-fashioned stuff is out, right? So in the 60s and 70s, you start to see the polyester quilts, right? And you can often find that kind of thing at estate sales. Um, yeah, they're usually very brightly colored. Um, 1970 to 2002, there's kind of a quilt revival. Everybody wanted to make bicentennial quilts. And then mass media continued. All right, now we've got women working, so we've got a little more disposable income. Everybody needs a hobby from work. Great. And we have TV, and we have cable, and we have big chain stores like Joann's, right? And who else sold fabric? What were the other big chain stores where you could buy fabric?
Diamonds.
Who else? Woolworths, right? Or
Sears sold big
Michael's or
quilt fabric.
Save-A-Thon. I don't know if they were around then.
No.
yeah, I think it,
Diamonds.
it was a lot easier to have access to primary goods, right? To be able to cut and make your own clothes. But in the 60s, 70s, and women are going to work and the women's lib movement comes in, you still have people at home making quilts, but you have a whole bunch of people who give up on all of the handmade uh, folk crafts um, because they want to modernize, right? But at every time there's a lull of quilting in history, there's still a loyal, dedicated group of quilters all across the country who are eking it out one stitch at a time until we come back in style, right? So I thought that was pretty cool. Um, when it comes to mass media, though, who can tell me who these people are? If you quilt, you probably have their branded products in your sewing basket.
Bonds and Porter.
Woohoo! Who's who? Do you know?
Um,
I'm guessing the one with the star is Marianne Fonz. No?
I think
Only because she looks like Mary Fonz.
I know her name was Marianne, yeah. And Liz Porter.
And Liz Porter. So these two women had TV shows. They wrote books. They taught everybody how to quilt in the 80s, 90s, and in 1999, they launched their first website. All right. The youngest daughter had learned some coding. They toss up a website, and they were probably one of the earliest quilting companies to do that, to actually put quilt fabric available online, and then education and such. Hold on, before here. So thank you to Fons and Porter and other quilters of the late 1900s for keeping the quilting knowledge around, for making the recordings and the books and the magazine interviews and all of that. But up until early 2000s, we still had quilt magazines. You could
Uh,
subscribe to quilt magazines more than five different types, I think. Six, seven. We had tons of quilt magazines. So still you have quilters all across the country and then starting around the world who know the same patterns by name, who have made the same quilts. Right? And this leads us into the modern quilt era. Hold on. This is again the Quilters of Gee's Bend and their stamps. Okay. In 2010, 2011, blogging was still free and friendly, right? The internet had not been totally commodified, um, and people were talking to strangers for fun and sharing their knowledge openly. It was great. And on sites like Flickr, um, Blogspot, right? WordPress, people would start taking pictures of what they're making and posting about it without getting any sponsorships, without also having a giveaway. Moda hadn't started putting their hand in everybody's pocket yet. Um, but it was a lot of fun. And you'll see as the internet happened, um, there were quilters who were not interested and didn't need a new hobby and did not get on the internet and just kept quilting. And then there were the quilters who found each other and found quilting and their people online. And I think I fell into the latter group because I was of the generation that was blogging anyway. And then I started blogging about quilts in 2006 and blogged about them for 8 or 10 years. Um, at some point, people were talking about a new style of quilting that was emerging among the groups online. They called it fresh modern quilting. And pretty soon the term modern quilting was taking shape, and people were taking friendships that they formed online and bringing them in person, real life. So I was at the very first New York Metro Modern Quilt Guild meeting, Victoria Finlay Wolf's flat in Manhattan. Was anybody else there? Hi, if you were there. Anyway, it was an online movement that turned into a grassroots local movement, and there are modern quilt guilds now all around the world. You've got still New York Metromod. There's Long Island Modern Quilters, and then cities and states all across the country have their own groups. There's also the National Modern Quilt Guild, which you can join as just an individual member and have access to all of their online resources. It's pretty cool that it happened. From the online guilds, uh, one huh, one segment or one section, one group decided that they were going to make it into a business and make it into an organization. And the Modern Quilt Guild TM was created, and then they started having QuiltCon. All right, the first QuiltCon, 2015, was it? 16? I don't remember offhand, but I've never been to one, actually. They are just like Comic-Con, but for quilters. So you get dressed up in your cool quilt clothes and you go hang out and geek out with your cool quilting friends. But this is where people are trying to show off what is modern quilting today. Um, I am frustrated because I was part of the movement since its inception that now the modern quilt look is so curated that every quilt there looks the same. They no longer carry the beliefs and uh, like motto or founding principles of modern quilting, which is basically there are no rules. You can learn from the past, you can update from the past, or you can completely take it from a different direction. But your individual interpretation and what you make from it, if it becomes an art piece or a utilitarian quilt, it's yours. It's free. And then Modern Quilt Guild decided to narrow the definition of what could be modern. And so now maybe we're in the postmodern quilt movement. I'm not quite sure. But I know that the internet has become a little bit more difficult place to hang out. It used to be easier to make friends on Instagram and keep up with everybody and see the quilts they were making. And now that things are not chronological, and that you have ads and other things and algorithms that don't show you the posts you're looking for. There are still some fantastic groups online, but I've been having a lot more fun quilting in person. And I will wrap up showing you guys the rest here. Okay. Um, the quilters of the modern era that I think you should be familiar with if you're not already. This is Shawn Kimber. Her name is at the bottom,
Google how do you
Chawne.
spell?
I'm sorry? hmm Um, this quilt is hard to look at, but necessary to share. Because forever, quilters have been getting their political voice heard or their need to speak through their textiles, through their quilts. And Shawn Kimber is one of the, I don't know, I won't say more radical, very, very, very talented. And she gets her message across in a beautiful way, I think. If you can't read the bottom of the quilt, she has patchwork made the letters. They're not appliqued or painted or anything. In essence, I am a sophisticated cotton picker. And then there she is peeking out behind her Stop the War on Women. She writes a lot on her quilts. She documents all the stages of her quilt making on her Instagram account. I'm not sure if she's posting anywhere else, but if you want to know what's going on in the quilt world these days, regardless of what patterns are popular or designers happen to be coming out with um, a new line this fall, that doesn't matter to me as much as the what people are doing with quilting. Are we putting them in museums? Are we wrapping our kids in them still? Are we making them, or we're just going to take the Target version? Quilts are a lot more than just bed covers. And if you're interested in learning more about this area of American history, there's so much. Uh, the internet's probably going to be your best bet these days, unfortunately, because due to low circulation, libraries have gotten rid of their quilt sections. This is a um, bittersweet kind of because I swoop in off the sale table and buy them all for 25 cents. But but it means we have less physical material to share the information of quilts, about quilt makers, and you have to go online where it's nearly impossible to find things. All right, so this is another quilter that I'd like you to research if you're interested. Her name is Bisa Butler. She has a long arm uh, machine to quilt her quilts, and she makes pictorial quilts with people. Beautiful people, fantastic colors, great lighting in her compositions. Um, the quilt world these days, I'll say, is separated into those of us, or people who quilt for a hobby, and people who are artists that have come to work in the quilt medium. So you see a lot of that. Uh, Finishing up. All right, guys, I do want to have a Q&A in a second. So I wanted to end up with a little bit more of my story and what I'm doing here. I wrote the blog, right? And magazines were going out of business, but tons of people were writing free articles online. And so at some point, if you had a quilting blog, it was very easy to get a book deal. And you'll notice now there are no magazines, but quilt books come out over and over and over. The same author putting out a new book every year, new book every 2 years. So the industry has found a way to continue to get consumers to purchase. Um, and there's just a great bunch of knowledge that's being written down and preserved this way. I wrote my first book in 2012. It came out in 2013, Quilting on the Go. It was very successful and is translated, available in 8 languages worldwide. So after my kids, it's kind of the thing I'm most proud of. It's kind of cool. I did write a second book, Get Started Quilting, which covers basic patchwork, applique, uh, piecing, and projects. Um, and it was a lot of fun, but you don't make any money from writing books. It is really cool seeing myself in the library and on Amazon and in the bookstore. And I love having written down the instructions so I can go and back and remember how I made things. Um, but what I do now, instead of hanging out online with other people who are just talking about quilts, I actually teach people how to quilt. Here I am. This is the Freeport Library on the left and the bottom. And then I have a classroom space in Mineola. That's pictured up on top. But watching people learn the skill, figure out how to get it done from not being able to make their points match up to all of a sudden having perfect triangles, right? To not thinking they can do it and then holding up a whole quilt that they finished in just a matter of weeks. Um, it's been mighty fun to go around and teach folks how to quilt. I first learned how to quilt. Of course, as I said, my cousins and I would play with the fabric, but no one in my family was quilting at that time. My great grandmother was gone. But there was an exchange student from Japan in my high school, and she made these little pouches and gave them to everybody. Like the principal got one, and the homestay coordinator got one. And so anybody that helped her on the stay, she'd make this tiny little pouch. It fits in your hand. And so I um, hung out with her until she taught me how to make it. And then I've been teaching other people how to make this, and it's incredibly tiny, and you think it's too small to make because American quilts tend to be bigger with bigger pieces, and Japanese quilting has much more detail. But Japanese quilters think that they're doing American quilting. So that's a whole lecture all past, but American quilting has expanded and is popular all around the world. Um, I am doing my best to fill the gap because when women's lib uh, hit, great for women, but bad for school curriculums. By the 1990s, there were no home ec classes. Right? Thankfully, they've reinstated and they have home ec classes now, but most kids don't gain any practical sewing knowledge in school. They could probably do a button, but not if they had to a second time. Right? So I like mostly working with adults, but if there are kids who are actually interested, this is a great skill. It's a meditative breath work, nearly. It's a fine motor skills. It's a creative outlet, and it's portable. The quilts that I make these days are upcycled fabrics. I do a lot of plaid shirts, and I like really tiny pieces. Ah, please keep in touch. Thank you so much for having me out, guys. Again, my name is Jessica Alexandrakis. My business is Life Under Quilts, and I teach in-person classes throughout Nassau County at the libraries. Check your library or ask them to have me out. Um, and if you like private lessons or the group classes that aren't at the library, you can find the information through the website. YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. As I said, I hate the internet, but I'm still there. And I do teach. Is anybody a retired teacher? Anybody in the group? Yay. If you are a UFT uh, member as a retiree, I teach for the Cy Beagle program, and there are 10-week long quilting classes on Zoom offered on a semester schedule. So please check me out if you get the catalog. It comes out first week of July.
Thank you, Jessica. This has been wonderful, an amazing presentation. I've learned so much. I want to go home and whip out my sewing machine.
Yay.
So thank you. And so appropriate for America's 250, which we're really starting with Memorial Day. This is so timely, and your work was beautiful. So thank you so much. And if anyone, I don't see any new messages in the chat. I've been watching.
Oh, let's see what people have said some stuff. Okay.
I just wanted you to get excited. I don't know whether you can see my
Oh.
Oh, yeah, Cindy, I'm excited. Check that out.
Finger.
Wow.
Yes, yes.
It's a
So,
beautiful
but
one.
I have a portable one, but I use that one for heavy fabrics. When I went to college, it was the College of Home Economics. So
Oh,
there you go.
see, that's definitely still worth learning.
I put in the chat that quilted pocketbooks are very popular now.
Yes, there's great Japanese patterns that we haven't translated into English yet, but I love teaching that kind of stuff also. Um,
And I can't find cotton covered polyester thread anymore. They said I could pay $17 for a spool of thread.
yeah, all right. So, all right, Susan, I see your raised hand, so I'll come to you in a second. Uh, going through the chat, I see that there's some recommendations. Guys, remember you can definitely still borrow resources from your library when they have them. There's a publication called Quilt Folk, and that is, I guess, right now the best quilt magazine out there. I don't subscribe, but it's there and beautiful. Uh, and there are some places to buy fabric on Long Island still.
Where?
You can go to North Shore Quilting and Fiber Arts in Huntington. It's on Main Street, but past the downtown, going east towards Centerport. And then it's off the street a little bit. She has a huge standalone shop with tons of parking, but it's tucked back from the road. So you might miss it the first pass. Um, but she carries all of the modern fabrics, a great selection of also kid prints and um, seasonal things. So she's got something for everybody. And then they are a sewing machine dealer. They sell Berninas as well. So it's worth a drive out there.
What could you just slowly repeat that again, the name of the place?
It's called North Shore Quilting and Fiber Arts. Somebody wrote it in the chat. For the last few weeks while she's open, you can stop right by here in Hicksville. There's a shop called Gone Sewin', Sewin, Gone Sewin', and it's on Levittown Parkway in Hicksville, between Old Country Road and Stewart, right by the Levittown pool. And it's a very small shop, but she is retiring. And so she's got most of the stuff on sale. If you want to pop over there and get some essentials, you might be able to find a bigger thread selection, Sandy, if you're able to get out there.
I'm in Florida.
Oh, oh, you have quilt shops down there. There are quilt
Tons of
shops in
them.
Florida. The reason there are no quilt shops anymore in Long Island, guys, is because rent. Oh my gosh, it's tough to make a living hawking yards of fabric for $13. Like, it's only 13 bucks a piece per yard. You only need so many yards to make a quilt. It's tough to survive as a quilt shop, a brick and mortar.
I'm sorry, the place in Hicksville, was it, the name was Gone Sewing? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Sewin'.
No G at the end, but Gone Sewin'. And then there is
So what's new in yarn too?
it's an Islip, right? So what's new in
Islip,
yarn?
yeah.
I haven't been there yet. If you go out to Sayville at the end of the week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday only, you can go to Patchworks. And she had a wonderful collection of boutiques. I'm not sure how long she's going to still stay open. But the good news is that Sew Right in Bayside, in Queens, they have been taken over by new owners who are enthusiastic and happy and have social media skills. And so looks like we will have another resource here close enough to the island. Susan, thank you for waiting. What's your question?
Hi. Well, I just wanted to mention that there are you talked about all the women who do quilting, but there are men who quilt. And I just wanted to mention about a few of them that I had found out about.
Mhm.
First of all, as far as history, during the Civil War, I understand that there were a lot of men who used the uniforms like the scraps from the uniforms, and they made quilts out of those. So I thought that was really interesting. And
Yeah, I've heard, but I don't have pictures of it, right? Like I've read about it,
yeah, I saw
but they're
examples.
good
They had
stories.
an exhibit at the Textile Museum in Manhattan. It's
Oh, nice.
the one that's opposite Lincoln Center. They always have great quilting displays there.
All right. Thanks for the tip.
And a contemporary quilter is Harvey Firestein, the actor. I follow him on Facebook, and he does absolutely amazing contemporary quilts.
Hmm. I haven't seen his work yet, but thanks for
I
the
can
recommendation.
I could send you the link to him if you. He's got a
If you
great
want, if you
Instagram and
want to put it in
Facebook.
the chat, or you can send it to me
Sure.
directly, I'd like to check
Yes.
it out. I do have male quilting friends,
Ah.
but um, I'm jealous. They all go up to a men's quilt retreat in Vermont every year. Like 20 guys going quilting together. I'm like, I want to go. No girls are allowed.
Would you consider Faith Ringgold a fabric art or quilting?
Faith Ringgold does fall in the quilt uh, umbrella, right? Even if her work doesn't end up on a bed, uh, and it's more art, that side of it, if it has the 3 layers and it's quilted, it's still a quilt.
How much work does the cat do that's next to you?
The cat? Oh, he gets hair on everything.
Yes, I know. I lived
And if
with
I'm
cats.
not careful, he'll spit up on it too.
Oh, lucky you.
Do you appraise quilts, or I have my great grandmother's, or my grandmother's quilt, I guess it is. So, and it's all handmade in Pennsylvania, and I'm just curious to know more
Wow.
about it.
I haven't moved into that area of
Okay.
professional quilting yet. I think I need to make a few more before I can become an appraiser. But if you contact the quilt guilds,
Yeah.
any of the guilds, if you send an email out, they will have people that they
Okay.
can forward to you.
Thank you.
Are you kidding me, mister? I slept
Mhm.
for another minute. Oh, it is another minute.
At her going like this. Did you see that?
Yes, we're admiring your cat.
Oh, all right. Well, I'll put him up here. If you have more questions, you can, but this is usually the Charlie show. In my classes for the retired teachers union, they always end at 12 o'clock when he gets fed, and he will come up and end class. Like, come on, guys. Like sitting
This
on the
is it.
laptop. It's
All right.
time for lunch, Mom.
Well, you don't understand that you're only there to serve him.
Yeah.
It's a deal. Yeah, we made this deal.
Yeah. I mean, he's allowing you to live in his house.
Yeah, I'm sitting in his chair. Oh, maybe that's it.
Yeah.
He has been sleeping in this chair forever, and usually I do the Zoom upstairs
It's
because
his
there's better
house, and
lighting.
he has chosen you to serve him.
Well, I will happily scoop his poop. He's a good
I used to
boy.
have a big sign up over the litter box, scoop the poop.
Me too.
Did it in fancy font and everything.
The things we do for them.
Oh, please, they run our lives.
So,
So I
the
have a friend who's doing what she calls fabric art,
mhm.
but it was the last artist that you showed with the images on a background. Her work is similar to that, but she's not calling it quilting. She's calling it fabric art. And she's won a couple of awards down here in North Carolina for her work. So,
That's awesome.
yeah,
I've seen other people do images on quilts, and it often falls into the art category because I don't know, either it's not flexible enough to go on a bed, or there's too much embellishing, things like that. But I I'm not sure. I believe part of what it is if you want to be able to submit it to a show or to a gallery, you need to call it something.
they
And
had quite an exhibit here at one of the smaller museums for over a month of all fabric artists. And it was
wow.
fascinating.
Yeah, it's really great what you can make with fabric.
Oh, one of them copied a, oh, I'm trying to remember the name of the artist. A famous artist's work, like Edward Munch, uh, something like The Scream.
Hmm.
They did it all in fabric art.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the work was very imaginative and very beautiful. Different stitchings, different types of stitching. She took me there to the exhibit and was able to explain to us, and my daughter-in-law came with us, and all the different types of stitching and designs of stitching and methods of stitching. So
Hmm.
we got a tour that we never would have had if we had gone on our own. We wouldn't have understood all the complexities and the intricacies of the stitching itself and how they did the borders. And,
So,
we really got a fantastic, better than a docent type tour.
so Judy, are you making those kind of quilts now or?
I'm not, but this friend of mine, and she was on this event tonight. I sent
Oh,
her the
good.
link for it.
Thank you.
She would be yelling at me if she was still here that I should stop talking about her,
Oh,
but she just signed off a few minutes ago.
now I'll tell you, my first husband used to complain, right? And this is going to be recorded so you guys can listen again. He can listen if he wants to. He complained that all my friends were quilters. And I was like, well, you like what you like, right? And to be able to bounce creative ideas off of somebody who will be honest with you that those colors don't look good together. right? It's a really enjoyable kind of friendship. It's not the same, right?
Well, when you bond over something that you have in common like that, and you can actually sit around and do it together.
Yes, and that's definitely what I'm trying to do. Actually, the one class that I was teaching on Zoom, everybody's cats showed up. Like we don't invite them, but everybody's like we say good morning to everybody's cats as they come across the screen.
We have, since COVID, we have had very few lectures where a cat hasn't come onto the screen.
Very
They used to apologize in the beginning of COVID,
not anymore.
but we're so used to it now that we just, we look for the cats on all the Zoom presentations. The dogs we hear barking, but the cats are usually
No, cats are invited.
right on the screen, blocking the screen.
So, thank you guys for bearing with me when I went back and forth between the cameras. Um, I
Yeah, but you showed us a lot. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Jessica. I know
no, my pleasure. It's great to be here for the Library Consortium. Nice to know we had a crowd from all over.
we had a wonderful crowd. Thank you so much. And we will stay in touch.
All right, thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, everyone. Good
Give
night.
it a try.
Good
Thank
night.
you. Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Thanks for bringing it to us.
You're
Thanks,
welcome.
guys.
Bye-bye.